Hi there, Tom Jeffries on the YouTube channel for thehowstreet.com. Thanks very much for joining us. 10th anniversary of Agora Financial's visit to Vancouver. It's the 10th annual Agora Wealth Symposium, and joining us now, the Vice President of Agora Financial is Mr. Addison Wiggin. Addison is the boss of the show here. Good to have you back.
Good to be here.
New edition of a couple of your books. Let's start out with Empire of Debt, one of your bestsellers. Boy, it was a pretty stark explanation of the world economy, but by gosh, you guys pretty well nailed it.
Yeah, you know, we looked at the buildup of debt over the course of the 20th century and at all levels of society. At housing, housing was a big deal at the time. We published the first book in 2005, and you know, it kind of hit like a lead balloon, so to speak. Nobody wanted to hear it back then, but at the same time, it kind of inspired the film that we made, IOUSA.
Fantastic film.
And by the time we got the film out, last year in August, the people were asking very different questions than they were in 2005.
When you sent out Empire of Debt to every member of Congress or the Senate, I remember you said, what kind of response did you get?
We actually published some of the responses, but they were on the order of, oh, well, thank you very much for the gift, and I'll put it in my personal library.
Yes. So I didn't read it, but thanks for the gift.
Yeah, right. Barack Obama apparently didn't read it either.
Yeah, that was my next. You're leading to my next question. You know, the savior is here. We're watching it from afar here in Canada. Give us a couple of sentences on Obama's performance so far, Addison.
Well, I think that for the most part, policymakers in America have completely gone crazy. They, you know, the buzz phrase for the Obama campaign before he became the president was, "We've got to get the economy back on track." But the economy was on the wrong track in the first place, and spending all this money is not going to get us back to anywhere that we should have been. You know, history shows that a high saving, high investment society produces prosperity, and low savings and high consumption does the exact opposite. I mean, it's not rocket science.
But the economists can't seem to figure it out.
No,
the mainstreamers, you know. I had one economist here in Canada, Addison, last week, honestly came out and said, Cheryl King from the Merrill Lynch in Toronto, by the way, and said, no sweat, in a couple of quarters we'll have 10% growth here in North America. Everybody back in the pool. 10% growth, that's Chinese numbers, as if.
Yeah, and I think it was on BNN this morning, the president of the Bank of Canada was talking, he thinks the worst is over, and away we go. So, you know, that's what they thought in the 30s, too. It took a long time to overcome the debt deflation that we're going through. It's a similar period in history. Back then, if you read things like what Joseph Schumpeter, the famous economist of the day, what he was saying, the worst part about a depression is the waiting. You have to spend a lot of time wondering what to do with your capital, and I think we're going to go through that period for a long time. Right now, the Dow just went over 9,000 again and has everybody all excited. I think we're in the throes of a classic suckers rally, and you know, that brings a lot of people back into the pool, and then you know, and then it gets ugly again, and people run out, and you know, I think the Dow's going to 4,000. That's my prediction.
All right. By the way, I'd like to tell you, Addison, you got me in a heck of a lot of trouble with CBC television here across the country because I quoted you and Bill Bonner from one of your books talking about real estate. And I pointed out with alacrity that Mr. Wiggin and Mr. Bonner pointed out that in Rome, after the fall of Rome, real estate didn't come back for 1,000 years. And that went over really, really big.
Yeah, I bet they like to hear that.
So I'm sure they were taking names on that one. Yeah. Let's talk about real estate. It doesn't seem to be getting any better in the States.
No, actually, it's in pockets, though, you know, like you would expect. You know, the real estate market is not one big market like the stock market. It's a regional thing, and places like Las Vegas and California they're getting slammed, but they were also the ones that experienced the biggest boom. So you know, what goes up must come down. You can expect them to continue to have a tough time. Where I live in Baltimore, my house continues to rise in value because you know, we're next to Washington D.C. and there's a lot of spending going on there, and people who live in Baltimore are benefiting from that, and so are people in Washington, and that's kind of how that's the way it works. They're spending money, and so I expect that as an asset class, real estate is a bad idea because we did go through that. You know, you don't want to buy at the top and wait around for another bubble to come along. So it's regional, but it's not a very good place to put your money right now.
I look at also too the fact, talk about real estate and the way things are going is, and again, the only thing I see growing is government jobs. Governments are saying, you know, that we're having a tough economy. It's going crazy here in Canada.
Governments are rabid these days, all across you know, the Western world. And it kind of stands to reason. The conventional wisdom is that when consumers can't spend anymore, 70% of the U.S. GDP is consumption, and corporations can't borrow anymore, the credit market seized up, they can't get the money that they need, the conventional wisdom is it's the government who has to keep the economy going, and that's exactly what's happening. Unfortunately, we're borrowing from the future to make that happen. The future and/or the Chinese, you know, who may or may not have our interest in mind when they, you know, when they do their thing next year or the year after, or
whenever they want to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Well, your vice president
came out. Shots now.
Well, Vice President Biden came out with a brilliant comment a couple of weeks ago. He said, you know, we got to keep spending money or we're going to go broke.
Brilliant, isn't he?
Whoa, hey, he's about as deep as my bathtub. When do you read these kind of things as an economist, as a commentator, and your team in Baltimore? Would you just keep shaking your head, or how do you deal with this?
I don't know. You know, I don't really pay attention to guys like Joe Biden because he's irrelevant, in my opinion. There's nothing he can do to help the situation, and every time he opens his mouth, he says something that even his own team doesn't like, so, well, you know, whatever.
Whatever. Let's talk about some of the main drivers of your economy, the world economy. Some people say California is the 8th largest, some people they say the 6th. Schwarzenegger's, you know, throwing out IOUs to pay the bills.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? You know, you can actually make money on those things. You can buy them on for 85 cents on the dollar and sell them back at 103 in October. Yeah,
I was just reading that too, and I was thinking, wait a second here. Yeah. Does this sound like
that's one way to finance the government? Huh?
Something doesn't really work here. You know, when you see the tax rates are, you know, people saying everything's fine, but taxes have got to go up. I mean, if incomes are falling for local governments, the guys that are still working, the guys that still have real estate, we're going to get nailed, aren't we?
Yeah, you know, and the thing is, California is always and historically been the trendsetter state, so the rest of us better watch out.
Boy, that's swell. How's Obama doing?
Fine. I haven't talked to him recently, but
yeah, thanks, Addison. I knew he'd take a shot somewhere. No, seriously, after Bush, how is Obama's performance economically? Fair enough.
I think he's actually probably got a fairly astute team around him. David Walker, Paul Volcker, a lot of the people that were involved in our film are advising him directly. They're probably as smart a group of folks that you would want to put around the president, but they've got an uphill battle that they're fighting with the wrong weapons, in my opinion. So I don't think that they can spend their way out. They believe that they can. So, you know, whatever he's trying to do, he's just, you know, it's the wrong economic policy for the country. And in a way, this kind of thing has to happen. The way I view it is the economic dislocations that have been caused by globalization are not something that the United States can do anything about. You know, historically, we're moving from one empire to a next, as history does, and the way things are shaping up, China is going to be calling all the shots in you know, in a very short amount of time, a much shorter period of time than we thought a couple of years ago, simply because they played the role that the United States did in the 1800s. They're the low-cost producer to the world. They saved their money, and they have all the gold, or they will have all the gold at some point.
So in other words, all the people that got the gold, they got the bank, basically.
Yeah, and the bankers call the shots. I mean, that's how it works. If it's a debt-fueled economy, then you're going to have to live by those rules, and that's what we're facing right now.
Here we another 365 days later. We had this conversation last year. It seems like every year we're facing more challenges, but as usual, you know, it's always great to have your team here.
Yeah. Well, thank you for having us. I mean, thank you for coming out and participating in the conference, because you guys are
part of the team.
Part of the team, trying to help us out.
Addison, we'll do our best. Addison Wiggin is the Vice President of Publishing of Agora Publishing of Baltimore, Maryland. Check out agorafinancial.com. Addison and his team will lead you to the best sellers and all the great conference speakers here. On behalf of Mr. Wiggin, my name's Tom Jeffries. You've been on the HowStreet.com YouTube channel. Thanks for your time today, and we'll see you soon.
Comments made on How Street Video and HowStreet.com are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at HowStreet.com. How Street Video is a production of How Street Media Incorporated.